All right, so today we are jumping into a story that kicks off with, well, maybe the biggest goal you could ever imagine, a plan to solve world hunger. But what starts there with a pretty spectacular failure actually sends us down this incredible rabbit hole to a much, much bigger idea about how to fix, well, pretty much everything. Let's get into it. So, right out of the gate, the End Hunger Now campaign dropped this bombshell of a claim. I mean, when you hear something that big, you kind of have to stop and listen, right? They weren't just aiming high, they were aiming for the stratosphere. So what was this incredible idea they thought could change the world?
Okay, first things first, let's look at the plan itself. And on paper, it was kind of brilliant. It was this really detailed, thought-out blueprint that was designed to be self-sustaining and tackle one of our oldest, most stubborn problems.
At the heart of this whole thing was this, just shocking paradox. The idea that we have more than enough food for everyone. In fact, we waste more every day than it would take to feed every single hungry person on Earth. So the problem, as they saw it, wasn't a lack of stuff, it was a totally broken system for getting that stuff to people. And this was their answer. They called it the Sustainable Food Engine. It's the super elegant sell one, give one idea. You sell 1 million healthy meals, use that money to make another 1 million, and then give that second 1 million away for free. And you do it again every single day. Once it's up and running, it could just go on forever without another dime in donations.
And here's the real kicker. They weren't even talking about building all this from scratch. The campaign said they'd already lined up 530 existing kitchens and banquet halls that were ready to go. So you think the logistics were all sorted out, right? The machine was ready to be turned on.
So, you've got this massive vision, a really clear problem to solve, and what looks like a solid plan with partners already on board. The ambition is just off the charts. But this is where that beautiful dream smacks right into a very harsh reality.
Now, even an engine like this needs a little bit of gas to get started. So the campaign figured out the one critical number, the absolute bare minimum they needed to get this thing running so they never have to ask for money again. Any guesses what that number was?
$18,000. That's it. To launch a project that could literally end world hunger, they just needed 18 grand. It's a surprisingly small amount, really, when you think about the scale of the whole thing.
So, that was the goal. An incredible, world-changing vision with a clear, pretty achievable starting line. But what actually happened? Well, this is where the story takes a sharp turn. $386. That's it. That's the grand total they raised over the entire campaign. It's a number so tiny next to the ambition that it's kind of hard to wrap your head around.
And just to really show you how huge that gap is, that $386, it's just a little over 2% of the bare minimum they needed. I mean, we're talking about a massive disconnect between the dream and the actual support it got.
And where did that tiny bit of money come from? Just 5 people. Over a campaign that ran for years, only 5 individual donors pitched in. It's just a powerful reminder that having a great idea isn't always enough. Getting that initial spark can be the hardest part of all.
Now, normally, a story like this would just end right there, right? A noble idea, a failed fundraiser, the end. But this is where it gets really, really interesting. Because that failure is actually a clue that connects us to this much bigger universe of ideas. A puzzle that pits these huge global plans against, well, brownies. And this is where things get a little weird. On one hand, you have this organization, PCMRM, that's talking about mapping the entire world, building these futuristic, sustainable communities using crypto. I mean, it's huge, abstract stuff. And on the other hand, you have the Plant Pure Chef Challenge in Jerusalem focused on community outreach and selling a brownie. They seem like they're from completely different worlds. But then you start to look a little closer, and the puzzle pieces just start snapping together. First, look at the name. PCMRM works with a group called Plant Pure Nations, and the Jerusalem project is the Plant Pure Chef Challenge. Coincidence? Maybe. But then you see they were both founded in the exact same year, 2021. And the kicker? Their websites were built with the very same tool. Suddenly, the connection is pretty hard to ignore.
So what in the world connects a massive global blueprint, a local brownie fundraiser, and a failed plan to end hunger? It all comes down to one single core philosophy, a radical idea that says the path to world peace doesn't start with a treaty. It starts with something you can actually hold in your hand. The whole argument boils down to this. All of our biggest problems, war, poverty, you name it, are built on a lie. They call it the scarcity mindset. It's that little voice in our heads that says there's just not enough to go around, so we have to fight over it.
But the truth, they argue, is that we're actually living in an abundance reality. We have the tech, we have the resources, we're just running on old, outdated survival software.
So, how do you even begin to fix a mindset that's so deeply ingrained? Well, it turns out you start right here with this, the Miracle Bar. And it's not just a snack, not at all. It's positioned as a tool. It's the very first step on what they call the path to peace. The idea is to fix your own personal health first as the entry point to fixing the whole system.
And here's how the vision just zooms out from there. It starts with the bar, solving that immediate need for nutrition. That then opens the door to taking care of the land, which leads to building sustainable farms. And the food from those farms makes it possible to create entire communities that are completely self-sufficient. It's a model that scales up, starting with one person and growing outward.
So, if a plan like this actually worked, what kind of world would we even be living in? What does a society look like when it's not driven by fighting over scraps, but by sharing a massive surplus?
In this future, life isn't about crushing the competition anymore. It's imagined more like a giant, ongoing trade show of creative sharing. Think science fairs and bake sales, but for everything. Innovation isn't just about survival. It's driven by curiosity and fun. The whole point shifts to a society built around what you can contribute, not just what you can consume. All focused on one simple goal we can probably all agree on: a happy, healthy future. And that brings us right back to where we started. From a failed fundraiser to this sweeping blueprint for world peace, the whole journey really leaves us with this one final, powerful question to chew on. What if the biggest thing holding us back from building a better world isn't a lack of resources, but just us?